Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back in beautiful Morgan, Vermont with Kristin Mason. She's the owner of the farm-based counseling services at Reining Hope Counseling Services. Excited she's back here today to talk to us about her passion of and her belief in healing power of horses and of course other animals and how they're helping all of her clients do better in so many different ways. So it's exciting to have you here and would love for you to give us a little bit of your background because I know you have a lot of titles. You've done so much and you have a lot of certifications. So would you mind just introducing yourself to our listeners today and viewers?
Well, Jill, it's nice to be back. I know we took a little hiatus there, and it is beautiful, but it's really crazy weather out here today. So, welcome to Vermont. So anyways, yes, I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor and an equine specialist in mental health counseling. I do both outpatient clinician, and I'm also here at my farm doing animal assisted therapies. So that's just a little spackling of what I do.
Well, I think it's beautiful what you do. I've gotten to know her, and I hope you're going to as well. She's also an animal communicator. She's just very modest here, right? You are a Reiki 1 practitioner, shamanic apprentice in training, Equimyo certified equine and canine trigger point, myotherapist. There's a lot that you do. And I mean, it's fascinating to know that you have been able to help so many, younger children and, teenagers and families who are dealing with so many things that, they're in the need of therapy, let alone you bring into the healing power of horses. Could you explain just a little bit about that before we continue today?
Yeah, actually, right before I'm always coming in from the barn before I start this. And actually, I was doing some one-on-one in my arena because my arena is actually hooked to my barn, which is awesome. So I don't have to go outside in bad weather. I can just bring them right out there. And I was doing a little one-on-one and thinking about, some of the things that I wanted to chat about today. And, one of the things is like every animal is different, right? And we can't always predict what is going on any given day, just like people. So, I'm out there and one of my horses, usually likes to play naughty and just look at me and not do anything. And today he happened to just go around, I free lunge. So I'm asking them to move around me in the arena without anything hooked to them. And he was listening. So I'm like, well, this is a good day. So, I have to ask myself, what am I doing different? Right? Am I more playful? Am I more relaxed? I don't know, right? So these are one of the things that kind of goes on in what I do for therapy, but also interacting with people, like people interacting with people, right? So we kind of get a sense from individuals, like I always use the example walking into a room, like who are you going to connect with? Are you going to stay away from? Right. So I guess it's another part of
It's like
communication.
a sixth sense, I call that.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And just kind of like feeling the room out, right? So today when my horse, Casey is his name, he's a quarter horse, and well, actually today is his gotcha day, as we call it, because 9 years ago today, he came to my farm. So I guess we call it the gotcha day. One of my boarders, cliched that or click that name. So I'm like, okay, it's his gotcha day. So maybe that's it. Maybe something about December 12th, 2015 to 2024 connected. And maybe today was the day that he's like, oh, okay, I've been here a while. So, maybe I'll like settle in.
Well, it's funny because, I just feel like a sense of, what's the word? It's like a sixth sense in a sense, but like everyone just connecting, you can feel someone's energy, you can feel what they're going through, and you have that with animals and people. I feel like it's like the elevator syndrome when you walk in the elevator and everyone's all awkwardly weird, but I could just silently, feel what they're feeling. And some people like, I want to say, hi, how are you? And I do. And some people you get sense something out of it, but there's always room for help. There's always room for growth. And I think a lot of people should, especially around the holidays, really take that into
Mhm.
consideration and understand that you are not alone. And I know I'm going on a tangent, but I feel it's so true with communication with anyone in the world, whether it's an animal person, but we all could use some love and some guidance. And I think right now is like a really hard time for a lot of people. How do I say that?
No, you're right. And it is like intuition, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, people, we need to be kind to each other. And I think that kind of plays into what was happening today. I was playful with my horse today, and it was, the wind was crazy outside and they hear noises, but I was supporting them. I was holding space for them to be able to like play in the arena and stretch their legs and whatever. And I think we need to kind of hold space. I think that's what a lot of clinicians do is they try to hold space for people. My farrier was here this morning, the guy who I love him dearly. I have very good like people that work with my horses, and I'm so blessed that my veterinarian and everybody's just so on board. But my farrier today was like, he was even saying it's very stressful for people right now. And
Hmm.
like the kids are all excited and everything, but some families they don't have the resources. So when we can kind of step up to the plate and be there for our neighbors or for our friends or for our clients and hold that space for them, I mean, sometimes that's all they need, right? They need the basic needs, but they also need us to hold that space for them and be able to like be like, okay, what do you need? Do you want help? And ask.
I love that. Well, thank you. And let me ask, the things right now that are happening on your farm, in your barn, the types of people you're seeing, for those that may not know, we're talking about people, what types of people need your help and really can help benefit with the healing, not just by you, but also by your animals. What types of things are they going through?
The holidays are always hard for people, right? Because, I mean, sometimes there's loss and there's grief
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it can be a joyous thing. And trying to support those that are like struggling either financially or emotionally, and being able to be there for them, but more like I'm trying to think of some examples. Like loss around the holidays. Actually, so last night I was actually at the agency where I was working, and I was one of our support staff people is there late. Usually I'm the last one to leave. So um, for the first time, we sat down and we were talking about our loss, right? He lost his grandmother. He saw her, he actually found her. She died of a heart attack, and he was like 18, right? So what kind of impact does that make? I was there with my father passed. You know, it wasn't expected. We had some time, but at the same time, it's like, what do you do with that loss where you can't say goodbye? What do you do with that? So, especially this time of year where there's all these holidays and the memories, and they can be positive, but it
Mm-hmm.
also can be a very hurtful time for people, right?
My gosh. Yeah. No, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Yeah. I had time. My mom was sick with lung cancer, but I got to be with her when she passed and took care of her in the end. And then you sometimes think, well, is it better to have someone have a disease and it's a slow dying disease, or is it better to, in an accident and you go instantly, what's best? It's like, and I always say, I would choose the maybe more painful way of, being there, but I feel like I got to speak with my mom, but not everybody has that. And so I know it's so hard.
Yes. And holding on to that. And when parents lose children suddenly,
Uh,
or when there's, maybe there's somebody struggling with drug addiction or
yes.
alcohol abuse or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, where they don't plan on dying, but they OD and nobody's there with an Narcan, and that's sudden. And there's a lot of stigma still around, drug and alcohol abuse or use, I should say, and also mental health. And it's like, you know, people that are going through this, they are really having a struggle. It's not because they're choosing to do it, it's because there's something chemically imbalanced and they need help, right? So when the stigma comes attached with it, it's like, well, everybody thinks I'm a, excuse me, F up anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to do what I do, right? Instead of being like, okay, what do you need? What can I do for you? What you're not effed up. You're a human being, right? And
Yeah.
for whatever reason, your body chemistry can't proceed forward without help.
Ah, and the type of help, how does it work there at the barn? You're doing most of this in person, right? Um, so you're taking your clients out to the barn to work with, to touch, to feel. What is the process? I would love to see it, which one day we have better connection. I know you
I
said we
know.
will.
I know. I think maybe I just got to go on my phone or something, but it's teeny weeny. I don't even know how that works, but my computer apparently does not have the service out there. Um, so when somebody comes, basically, I kind of let them choose which animal they want to work with, which horse they want to work with, because I feel like if I'm forcing an issue, not forcing an issue, but forcing somebody to work with a certain horse, I'm impeding, I'm the barrier, right? So if I have somebody, like, say the horses are either out in the paddock or in the barn, we take a walk and we talk about, like, okay, what are some of the good things that happened in the last week? And what are some
Hmm.
of your challenges or whatever? And then I'm like, after this conversation or as we're talking, I'm like, so, while we're out here, just kind of like, look at the horses and just kind of take a minute to yourself and tell me, which one's calling to you, basically. And I will say 9 times out of 10, that's the one that should be working with that person
Wow.
for whatever reason. And it probably is because whatever's going on with them in the moment, the horse can help them with. And I'll give an example. There was there was a time where I was in my head thinking, oh, this horse will be great for this person on this day, right? Well, that horse came down to the fence and walked away. So I'm like, instead of fighting it, because usually if you don't listen, something happens, not too bad, but sometimes something happens or it just doesn't work. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening to this horse. It's walking away. Which one's coming to us? Okay, it's this one, right? So the person, we took him out, and it just so happened that the horse that came down had some struggles previous in life. I don't often know all the background of my horses because, they may have had 2 or 3 owners prior to, or they're given to me or whatever. So I don't often know, but this one I happen to know that it wasn't traumatic, but it was kind of a um, situation where the person took care of the horse at the beginning, but then got tired of it and just like lost interest, right?
Hmm.
And so the person was kind of trying to figure out what their interests are. They lost touch with what was important to them. And so we were kind of at the time actually talking about self-care and everything. And so I was explaining to this horse that, I mean, to the horse, to the person that, this horse that they chose or chose them, kind of struggled. Like they didn't know who their person was and they didn't know. So there was this like indecisiveness.
Yeah.
And when they came here and knew that they were going to stay here, they started interacting with different people. And so this person was like, wow, I used to like, refinishing furniture. And so we were talking about it. And I was like, well, why don't you? What's holding you back, right? What
Hmm.
are your barriers? So that kind of led into a
No.
conversation about, what are our barriers? And she ended up refinishing furniture again. And actually, I'm like, so why don't you put it online, eBay or whatever? And I don't know, she did sell several pieces. I don't know if she's actually got a business now because we ended our therapy, but it was pretty interesting how it all
Oh.
transpired.
Oh, I love hearing these stories. All right. By the way, I just want to remind everyone how we can reach out to you. Would you mind sharing the website, phone number, any way we can contact you?
So Reining, it's www.raininghopecounselingservices.com. My email, which is a really good way to reach me, is KRIS12MASE@gmail.com, or you can leave a message at 802-895-9166.
Beautiful. What other aspect of your work and helping people did you want to make sure we cover for today?
So an interesting situation happened, and it actually involved my mom and scared her to death. One of my boarding horses was acting up
Oh,
unexpectedly, and so when this happened yesterday, um, my mom basically was bit by this horse, and she was very upset and everything. And so we're trying to figure out what's going on,
yeah.
right? So I think when relating to people, we don't always know what's going on under the surface. Like they may have this positive attitude outwardly, but something might trigger, right? And we have to remember that animals are the same way. So there wasn't anything out of the ordinary that we can figure. Sometimes people have medical issues that are under the surface that are, you know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe be more negative when they're usually positive people, or maybe they have a condition. Well, for example, people with diabetes, sometimes if
Mm-hmm.
their blood sugar gets out of whack, they
Oh,
get like
yeah.
grumpy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not them, it's something underlying. So looking at the bigger picture, I think is what we need to do with people and animals in general. And I think that's where the other connect is, that sometimes things happen and we have to like look at the bigger picture to try to figure it out, right?
Oh, wow. Is the horse okay? Anything,
The
and your
horses,
mom?
yeah, as far as we know, mom got a nice bruise on her arm, but and the owner felt terrible, and um I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. So maybe the horses had too much sugar, too many treats, too much hand feeding. I don't know. But we're going to start eliminating. And then, if it happens again, or if something else is off, then we look at the veterinary aspect. So I will call the vet, already talked to the owner, and we're figuring things out. But you kind of try to eliminate things step by step. Animals can't talk to you, so it's a little more challenging, but people can. And uh, another thing that came up in conversation today was, like, for example, teenagers and how people, you need to talk about it if you want help to move forward through it, right? And sometimes it's really, really hard to talk about things, but if we have the power to talk about things to somebody that you can trust, it doesn't necessarily have to be a counselor. It could be a trusted peer. It could be a parent or a grandparent. But if we can kind of open up, that helps us move forward, right?
Yeah. And, I just love, I've never, I love animals. I have three, how many I know? Three cats, I think I do. Three cats now. One's pregnant, one passed away, so I'm a little confused. But I grew up with like 120 something cats my whole life. So I bonded with cats, right? Everyone has, I think, an animal, but never had a dog. I want a dog, but I don't know. There's something about animals that are just so magical. When I'm not feeling well, my cat knows. It'll come in my bed and he'll just cuddle with me. And I'm like, how do you know? It's just so weird. I think they have their own sixth sense where it's like they can, I mean, I don't know if it's every animal. I'm assuming that they must. And it's just so beautiful to know that they care like that. And it's just like wild. And just by their presence makes me feel better. And I guess that's what's happening with you and your clients, right?
Exactly. And I do believe, I mean, animals in the wild, they have a sixth sense because they got to survive, right? So there's predators and there's
Yeah.
prey. Um, and even domesticated. I mean, these our domesticated animals came from wild animals, right? Somewhere
Hmm.
along the way. So historically, they have these senses. Um, but I think also like I think when things happen in our bodies, it's a chemical reaction, right? So we exert pheromones and other, I'll call them excretions or whatever, that animals automatically pick up on, right? That's why some dogs are aware, or actually cats too, are aware when somebody is going to have a seizure, right? They can
Yeah.
sense it before it happens because there's a chemical change in our bodies. So, um, I mean, we as people, maybe we do have that sense and we just don't know it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's any research out there, quite honestly, but maybe like going, going way, way back, maybe we also have that wild sense, I guess, of things that are happening with other people. And maybe that's where all of this comes in, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that is actually where all these senses come in, right? The intuition and the knowing and everything. So, I mean, it'd be great if somebody would do a research project on that. I don't know if there's anything out there. Maybe I'll look, but
Yeah,
um, we are animals too.
we are. Oh my goodness. And could you share a story or two of someone that you're helping or have helped? I like hearing, unless you have something else planned. Go ahead.
Actually, there's a young girl that we did a teletherapy today because the roads were horrible and everything, and she has a couple of horses and they raise dogs and everything, and so she actually came here and her and her mom are actually my clients, but it's more her and the connection between her and her mother. And it was cool because her mom out of the blue sent me some videos of this young girl working with her horse. She was afraid of this course, but when she was here, um, visiting with me for her first visit, actually, we went out in the paddocks and we talked about all the horses and their different personalities and what I do with them and everything. And for whatever reason, it gave her the courage to actually go out with this horse that she was relatively afraid of and play with it. And so now she's not afraid because this horse used
Hmm.
to apparently buck and like kind of jump around. And, anytime you tried to lead it or whatever. And through our conversations about like, self-regulation and being able to kind of calm ourselves so that we can work with another person, another animal, or whatever,
Hmm.
it it helped her. And these videos were phenomenal because she had the biggest smile on her face and she was like trotting with a horse next to her. And she has an open field where she does some of her free lunging and everything, where I have an arena. But when we talked about it, she asked me, how she could go about doing it in the space that she had, and it worked. And it was kind of cool because she actually carried on with what we talked about, right?
Yep. Wow. I love hearing this, and it's something that's just, it's so beautiful to be able to work with people and animals and see that improvement. It must make you, I mean, so whole, right? I mean, clearly you love what you do. And, you mentioned your Reiki 1 practitioner as an energy healer, right? So while your patients are working with the animals, are you also working with them too, with Reiki, or does it come together? Is it separate?
It is separate. And I always ask permission, obviously. I actually ask permission of the animals too if they want some work done to them. And I I do some homeopathic work with essential oils and everything too. So um, basically, it has to be an asking thing, and if they're willing to participate, then I'll do it. If they aren't, then they clearly give me like no way in heck. For example, with the animals, right? So I might be like, maybe I have an animal that's got some sore muscles or something, and I'm going to do some work on them. I ask permission, and typically if they're willing and able, and they'll stay there. But I've had horses be like, not so much, and they will either stomp their foot or they'll look away or whatever, and you really have to read those signals, and it's like, okay, not today, that's fine, or they'll come to me, out in the paddock, like, okay, who needs help, and they just come to me.
All right. Well, I love hearing these stories. We still got 3 more minutes left in the show, sweetheart. How, or what else did you want to make sure we talk about and cover for today?
um what was I thinking before we talked about? So many things go through my head. I mean, it's like I can't imagine, I mean, how fast 30 minutes goes by. But um, what was the other thing I was thinking? There was something else that came up. Um, I don't know. It's escaped me at this point, but
Was it a story about someone that you've been working with, one of your animals? Is it?
it was more a message
Oh,
for actually clinicians. And this is not telling people how to do their job by any stretch of the imagination,
mm-hmm.
but I think it kind of goes along with the um, just kind of supporting people where they're at, which most clinicians do. I know that. But also being able to think outside the box, I think, too,
Okay.
where, you know, just because you have what's in front of you is in front of you does
Mm-hmm.
not mean that there's not other things going on, right? And I think it
Yeah.
goes back to, the incident with the horse yesterday and my mom is okay, so something's going on, but we may not have the answers like right away. We have to dig a little deeper. We have to have patience. We have to, ask the right questions and also read body language
Yeah.
too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for people and animals, honestly. If I've had teenagers in my office that are like, something's going on, and maybe working with animals has helped me read body language with people, but I will have teenagers and they're hard to read sometimes, but I will have them ask them a question or whatever, and they will like have this body language, which is like, ooh, like looking off to the left or the right, or like kind of like this avoidance thing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, so are you really telling me everything right now that you want to tell me or not? And you really have to kind of call them on it, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of them, they they almost want you to call them on
Yeah.
it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh,
some are like, okay, and it's like, fine, if you don't want to talk about it today, let's talk about it next week. It's okay, but I'm getting a sense there's something going on here that
see?
you want to say.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I love it. I get the goosebumps thinking about it. And I love it. And I mean, for this time of year, I love that you're helping so many. And, around the holidays, I think, like we mentioned before, people just need something more. And maybe now's the time. So if they want to reach out to you, how will we be able to contact you?
I would go ahead and shoot me an email, KRIS12MASE@gmail.com, or give me a jingle, 802-895-9166. And just remember self-care too this time of year. Whether that be doing whatever you want to do, or go grabbing some fresh air, or hugging your pets, or whatever that may be, because I think
Oh,
self-care is really important this time of year
I
too.
agree. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure having you back. Good seeing you. And will I see you again before the holidays?
Think we have next week,
All right,
actually,
good. So
right? I
I won't
believe.
say happy early holiday and we'll talk next week. Thanks. Maybe we'll get in the barn. Yeah, if you can connect on your cell phone, that would be great.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I want to
will it
see it.
show up small? I don't know.
No, it will show up regular. For you, it's
Okay.
small. For me, it's big. If you can, I mean, no pressure, but I would love to see it. Or if not, if you
All
have any
right. Well, then
pictures.
I'll connect on my cell phone next week, and even if we're outside or something,
All right. Thank you
I'll
so
try
much.
to do that.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.